Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this special edition of Talk of Champions. I am Billy Embody. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today as we are joined exclusively by Tulane head coach Jon Sumrall. Really excited to have him on the show and reconnect with him and talk about this matchup between Ole Miss-Tulane. And of course, the Rebels pick up 2 commitments on the recruiting trail as well. We'll break all that down and more on this edition of Talk of Champions presented by our friends at RiverLand Roofing.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require RiverLand Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, RiverLand Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what RiverLand Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
You're locked into Talk of Champions, an Ole Miss podcast powered by RiverLand Roofing and featuring Ben Garrett and Billy Embody of Rebel Grove.
Well, happy game week, of course. Ole Miss taking on Tulane Saturday afternoon in the Vaught. The Green Wave unbeaten, just like the Rebels, and a big matchup for both programs. Tulane has aspirations to be the Group of 5 representative in the college football playoff and win the American. Ole Miss looking to be one of, or if not, maybe the representative from the SEC as far as the champion goes, and they still have all of that ahead of them after 2 SEC games, of course, beating Kentucky on the road and beating Arkansas at home. We're not going to spend too much time on that Arkansas game last week, but I do want to say you got to give Trinidad Chambliss so much credit for the poise that he came into that game with as a starter. And even playing through injury, having that cut on his hand, was still able to be as productive as he was and lead the Rebels to a win in his first SEC start. You can see what championship and playoff experience does for somebody because, yes, Ferris State D2, very different experience. I do like that Lane Kiffin mentioned in his postgame press conference, probably the most fans he's played in over the course of his career combined was in Vaught Hemingway that day. So kind of makes it that much more of a huge difference. But when you play with pressure up against you, whether that be in the playoffs for Ferris State, whether that be in the national championship game for Ferris State, that helps you go through moments like that when the ball's put in your hand. Austin Simmons was available. We can talk about whether he's 100% or not. That's a different conversation, but he was able to go out there, go 21 of 29, 353 yards, a touchdown through the air, 15 carries, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and do what he needed to. Ole Miss rolled up 475 yards total offense. He 8 of 12 was on third down as a whole, and they were able to get another SEC win. And like somebody said on rebelgrove.com, these 2 games that Ole Miss has won to lead off SEC play, kind of against thorn in the side type of teams. Normally they're close contests, and they were, of course, 1 score, 1 possession games, and Ole Miss able to pull both of them out. They get Tulane this week, then they welcome LSU, which is a 2:30 kick for Ole Miss in the Vaught, and then they get that bye before they return to action after that. So a critical early period here for Ole Miss. They've got to get by Tulane, they've got to get by LSU if they can. And, come for LSU, they're facing a ton of offensive woes. Ole Miss kind of has a little bit of concern on the defensive side of the ball based on what we've seen the first 2 games of the year, or in SEC play. That's a unit that still has to work itself out and figure out what works best. They're going to be challenged this week by Jake Retzlaff in this Tulane offense. We'll talk with Coach Sumrall later on in the pod about that and more. I'm really excited to have him on. I've known him for a while now, and he is one of the definitely, I don't even want to say up and coming because he's been the head coach at multiple programs now and has had success at seemingly everywhere he went, and has been a name that has been considered for multiple head coaching opportunities lately over the last several years. But he is a hot name in coaching circles right now. So really excited for him to come on the pod and talk with us. Not very often that you'd see a sitting head coach at another program come on a opponent's podcast, so to speak, but we're happy to have Coach Sumrall on. We'll get to that interview in just a little bit. Let's jump into some recruiting first, but of course, do want to mention that we're presented by our friends at RiverLand Roofing, riverlandroofing.com, or give them a call or text at 662-644-4297. They have the commercial side of things too. That is really important to note here for Riverland, because they have, your home, they can always do that, but they're really branching out into that commercial space and making some big time plays, as well as being able to wash buildings. And I saw they did the Oxford water tower. So they're really being able to offer so many different services to you guys, both in your personal world and maybe even your business or commercial side of things. So go to riverlandroofing.com for more information. Billy Landis and his entire family doing great work over there. We appreciate their support of us at Talk of Champions, and rebelgrove.com. You can subscribe for just $1 for rebelgrove.com today. So we encourage you to do that as well. Pete Golding, back-to-back days with Sharks out in the water, and they get 2 commitments at his position. Both really, I would say, really intriguing prospects. Both are really athletic linebackers. And let's lead off with the guy who started the party on Sunday, and that is Jiyez Fleming from Oxford, Alabama. And he commits to the Rebels after they were his first SEC offer. Ole Miss jumped on board here early on with that offer and was able to get him in town for a unofficial visit this past weekend for that Arkansas game. And lo and behold, he pulls the trigger right away. UAB, Tulane, funny enough, and Southern Miss, Arkansas State, South Alabama among those early offers for him. So an early take here for Pete Golding, listed 6 foot, 220 pounds or so. And he is certainly somebody that, plays with a physical edge. If you get a chance to watch a lot of his tape, I would encourage you to do that. He's really getting his sophomore year tape out there right now, but you get a chance to watch him against Pinson Valley, one of the top programs in the state of Alabama here, diagnose, play, fight through the muck, and then get to the ball carrier there. And, he's built, I would say, already like you'd like an SEC linebacker with his size. He's able to split gaps really well. I'd be intrigued to see kind of where they see him playing. If they see him playing as a true Mike, or maybe kind of an undersized guy off the edge that they could use a little bit, because he does move around all over that defense for Oxford. But, a young player here. This is somebody who is just going into his junior year and getting that going. So, a nice early eval. They offered him and he jumped on it right away. He's really excited to be a part of this Ole Miss class. He jumped all over it. Now, we'll see where this goes, but I wanted to lead off with him because he was first, of course, between the 2 Sharks that were out in the water. But the big one really, came on Monday night as JaMichael Garrett, 4-star linebacker out of Baton Rouge Central, commits to the Rebels. This is somebody who, Pete Golding has probably been recruiting him now for, it seems like, 4 years. Just somebody who was on the radar super early as a commitment to Auburn and had offers from all over the country. He's the 252nd overall prospect in the country, according to the Rivals industry ranking, the 15th ranked linebacker and a top 10 prospect in Louisiana. JaMichael has transferred schools a couple times. He originally was at Gulf Shores. He's been to a couple different high schools. He was at Edna Carr, I believe, in the New Orleans area for a cup of coffee as well, and has just kind of bounced around a little bit, but has settled in to this Baton Rouge Central program and has played really, really good football early on in this season. He was somebody that I think, athletically people love as kind of like a will linebacker, really comfortable in space, really somebody who is able to kind of play all over the field a little bit. Central's used him off the edge, and you see this a little bit when you're scouting linebackers at the high school level, where they'll use them off the edge. They'll play them in space a little bit, but because they're so fast and able to, impact games, you want them to be able to use their speed to their advantage. And some teams, you could kind of see it with Sunterian Perkins, sometimes with Ole Miss. Sometimes teams will run right at them. Sometimes teams will do different things to try and scheme around them. But JaMichael Garrett is somebody I really like athletically. I think he knows how to use his skill set at the high school level. I think Pete Golding's now goal, and of course, to an extent, challenge, and challenge probably isn't the right word because of his athleticism, but challenge now is how do you get him to play in your system where you want him to, because he does have the physical aspect of the position down. He does have that ability to make plays. And if you watch him kind of in this film, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, of course, click that subscribe button, like and follow button for us. You'll see he's kind of, even before the snap, just talking to his teammates. He looked over the sideline kind of, okay, am I supposed to be doing this? Because he's really still learning their defensive system. Most of his team, I'm sure, had been in there for multiple years. But I think athletically, he really checks the boxes of what they're looking for and pairs really well with Anthony Davis, the other linebacker that is committed to Ole Miss in this 2026 class from Grayson High School in the Atlanta-ish area. And so now they have 2 4-star linebackers committed. Ole Miss does sit with the 21st overall class in the country right now, but JaMichael Garrett becomes the 4th highest ranked recruit in the class, according to the Rivals industry ranking. I mean, some of this you can, of course, debate, like Craig Tutt's right behind him. He's a guy we really like at Rivals, as a borderline top 100 prospect. Emmanuel Tucker's right behind them. There's Corey Barber Jr., who's off to a big start as a senior. Jet Goldsberry's a 4-star on Rivals, but nowhere else, and he's been making a ton of plays. So there are guys that you can kind of push up and down the ranks, of course, to your own personal rankings. But the big thing here, Ole Miss has now 2 linebackers back on board, because they did lose Isaiah Williams to kind of a weird situation where Ole Miss was really relying on him to play early. He gets hurt, and from all intents and purposes, it seems like they dropped him, maybe without just actually dropping him, but I'm not sure, truthfully. But you get 2 linebackers who are really highly recruited. You get Anthony Davis over the summer. Ant commits to Ole Miss over Michigan and a couple other programs. You get JaMichael Garrett, who had been talking a lot to Clemson and Tennessee and some of these other programs around the country, and you get them on board. And that really makes you feel good long-term about the position, because now with them losing, a TJ Daugherty, a Taj Chambers, Andrew Jones is out of eligibility. There's going to be a need for Ole Miss to maybe bring in a transfer kind of to help that transition year in 2026. But I would say now you're probably done at least spending on linebacker with rev share and NIL and things like that. If you get a third, unless it's somebody who just really wants to come and you can't turn them away and you'll figure it out money-wise, or you'll figure it out this or that, then you can kind of play that game and find somebody who fits your program, who just wants to be there that badly. But as far as the guys that they really want to make priorities, these are the 2 that have really risen to the top. There is one more wild card, and I think it'd be a good one if they could figure out how to make it work. But Billy Wevoda out of Milton, Georgia, he's committed to Iowa. He's somebody that the Rebels did offer after his first game of the season. Milton, I believe, if I'm having my 2025 high school football season history correct, Milton played Buford right off the bat. And of course, that is Ole Miss defensive back commit NASCAR McCoy's team. He was back on over the weekend for another visit to town. But they watched Buford play Milton, and Billy Wevoda impressed. And so they went out and offered him. He is on the rise. It wouldn't shock me if he finished as a 4-star in the rankings. 6'3", 205-pound linebacker. If you get a third, there are 2 schools of thought. You can take the money that you were thinking, okay, maybe we got to go get a transfer here. You have Jaden Yates back. You have Jacoby Hobson coming back. You maybe could make this work where, okay, let's just double down and let's go all high school linebackers. And maybe that is something that they end up doing. But Michigan is pushing for Billy. There's a bunch of other programs going after him as well. So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be really difficult to maybe pitch that without upsetting a JaMichael Garrett, an Ant Davis. You want to always be cognizant of that as well, because those are a couple guys that they've been recruiting for a long, long time. So with that is kind of the mini recruiting rundown. If you want more, I did post some tidbits on a couple of flip targets that Ole Miss is working on at rebelgrove.com. Subscribe for just $1 for your first week. But before we get to our interview with Tulane head coach Jon Sumrall, do want to remind you guys, of course, that we're presented by our friends at My Perfect Franchise, myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ludicky, you can give him a call, 404-973-9901. And the great thing about Andy is his services are free. You can talk to him. Hey, what works for me as far as time commitment, as far as money? Do we want to do a brick and mortar? Do we want to be work from home? Whatever. He's a franchise consultant, and he's been that for years. So he can help you plan all of this out. And then if you decide, hey, I want to do this, he can work with you on the right one. And then that's where he gets a little kickback from setting you up with the franchise. So 404-973-9901, or email him, Andy, A-N-D-Y, at myperfectfranchise.net. They can help you through this entire process and help you leave the corporate rat race for the American dream. So with that, we go now to our interview with Tulane head coach Jon Sumrall. Really excited to have him on, like I've said, of course. But again, so gracious with his time. And we hope you guys enjoy this interview with Jon Sumrall, Tulane head coach. Now excited to be joined by Tulane Green Wave head coach Jon Sumrall. Coach, thanks for the time over there in Uptown, man. How has it been for you taking over this program and just getting into it? Your program's culture taking hold now over the last year or so.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Bill. It's been good, man. The standard of this program has raised over the last few years. I think there were several years of maybe kind of wandering in the wilderness, if you will, trying to find its way. And then, Willie, at the end of his time here, Coach Fritz did a really good job of, the Cotton Bowl year everybody remembers. I think what's amazing is they went from, 2 wins to the Cotton Bowl. And it wasn't just a turnaround. It was about as dramatic of a turnaround as you could ever have. And so, man, the location we have, being in New Orleans, it's easy to recruit to. A lot of good players all around us. The academic component that our university presents is definitely something that's really easy to sell as well. And then that football matters here. That it's elevated, and that you could sense that this past Saturday night in our stadium. We had a sellout. The student section was freaking rocking. Like we're at a place right now where Tulane football here locally, it means something different than probably what it did 10, 15, 20 years ago.
How much did you have to change? I'm sure you have your ways of doing things, but like you said, Willie kind of had it rolling and things like that. What were your kind of first steps to establishing your own brand, your own culture that you and your team? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, love Willie, respect Willie. I'm not Willie, right?
Right.
I'm going to do things the way I do it to some degree. Now, each place has different things that make it unique. And so at Troy, you're in a rural, small college town, unbelievable people there. Like, man, the facilities there were really probably ahead of a lot of that league in some regards. And it was teachers college, kind of more of a state school, right? Public school. And then you come to a place like Tulane, you're more in a rural environment, really, really high academic school, and some just nuanced things that are different that you have to kind of adapt to. And some of that's maybe with who you recruit, like the academic component you have to keep in mind here when you're recruiting student athletes. Like, they have to understand that the school thing here is real. And then the fit matters. But how we run the program day in, day out, like the standards, the culture, the norms that we have in place, man, they travel with us and they didn't change. Like, from Troy to here, it's the same DNA. Our core values are the same. Our team rules are the same. And the urgency in which we do things hasn't changed. We're still very intentional about, man, the pace at which you function matters. And so our guys know that, man, you better bring it every day. Like, I bring it every day. There is no casual, nonchalant vibe around here. If there is, I call it out real quick. And so while I respect what had already been started, we've maybe put our own fingerprints on how we do things here. What I will say is, different than when I took the job at Troy, there was a lot of things that needed retooling, like a lot. The roster was actually in really good shape.
Right.
To be honest, the roster was better than people thought. There was a lot of other things foundationally that we had to kind of retool. Here, I think people probably thought the roster was in better shape than it actually was. Like the roster, I actually had to go out and fix a lot of, because we only had we added 5 defensive starters in our 2024 team that got here in May or June last year.
Wow.
And so we had to kind of go out and fix some personnel holes or gaps, if you will. But the on the flip side, the resourcing, the support was already kind of in line to some degree, and maybe how we were feeding our players or how we were traveling. A lot of that stuff was already kind of being done the right way. So it was 2 different types of approaches that I had to have when we came here. It was a little bit different.
You could tell Lane Kiffin has a lot of respect for you, and a lot of that has to do probably with his dad, stopping by to see you. And obviously, we lost him, and I grew up in Tampa. So I grew up in Tampa too, and Monty Kiffin, and, it was just unbelievable back in those days. And, to have somebody like that stop by your locker room, like you said, it was your first head coaching game.
Yeah.
That I know you talked about it in your press conference today, but that had to be one of those moments where it just really kind of sticks with you a little bit.
Yeah, I still have the picture on my phone from Monty coming over. I mean, I showed somebody that picture today. I was like, man, we had, it's my first game as a head coach. We'd gone to Ole Miss. It was an adventure, to say the least. Our buses were all different colors. We had a kaleidoscope of buses, an orange bus, a red bus, a white bus. I mean, they're all different colors. And then we went over there. On the way there, our equipment truck breaks down. We passed it on the side of the road. And after the game, we lose like 28 or 27-10, something like that. And really, we didn't play very good. First game as a head coach. Man, I was kind of dejected. I got my head down in the locker room, and then I look up, and Tom Luke comes in, and he's like, "Hey, somebody's out here who wants to talk to you." And I'll show you the picture. I just pulled it up. There's me and Monty after the game.
So cool.
Yeah, and so Monty, I come out, and he's like, "Hey, coach," he's like, we probably have like a better team athletically than y'all. Like clearly, it looks like. He goes, "But man, your kids played tough, and they were physical. They played hard, and they played the game the right way." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I got Monty Kiffin telling me like how good our team played in regards to how they played the game. I use this term a lot. It's not always what you do, but it's how you do it. And so when Coach Kiffin, when Monty came over, man, it was such an encouragement for me, first time head coach, very young in my head coaching career, to just have a legend like him take the time to want to come seek me out and go, "Hey man, y'all are doing some good stuff. Keep going." And it meant the world to me. Like, I didn't know Monty personally on that level, but it had a real impact on me as a coach and as a human. And it's easy to see, the type of person he is and really kind of how Lane's done things. I got a ton of respect for Lane. I said today in my media availability here with our local media, I said, man, how Lane and that staff have really addressed roster construction. We've sort of followed it and like looked at it. We're not Ole Miss. We're not in the SEC. We don't have that resourcing. But on our level, at our scale, I've tried to go, okay, who's doing this new world we live in of NIL and transfer portal really well, and who's adapting? Because I think some people have adapted. I think some people are just kind of like, oh, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and that ain't going to work. And so I've really followed and tracked Ole Miss and Lane and how they've operated, because I have a ton of respect for what they do and how they've done it.
And speaking of, playing the game, that toughness, that edge that you like your team to play with, Jake Retzlaff has come in and been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I mean, over 100 yards last week, set the school rushing record for touchdowns. I mean, what has he meant to your team, as far as what he brought to the table? Because I know you felt good about your quarterback room too going in.
Yeah, well, to be honest, 2.5 weeks before game one, Brendan Sullivan was probably in the lead on the quarterback battle, and he had an ankle injury. He's back available now and can play and has played and probably going to play a little bit more as we go. But that's when Jake started to kind of elevate because he, it was a competition, and Brendan went down, was out for, at least 10 days for good, like on the shelf. And Jake really elevated and kind of, there was like pouring gas in the fire in regards to him learning how he did things and what we did here. He's, man, there's no substitution for a guy that's won games, and he's been in that seat. And he's operated in a college offense at a high level at BYU, and he's got confidence. He's got a little swagger, got a little moxie about him. He plays the game with a little bit of chip on his shoulder. He kind of a wild deal, but when he's leaving Riverside Community College, he had 2 offers, Troy, where I was head coach, and BYU. And so I've been fortunate to know Jake for several years, and was proud of the success he had at BYU. When everything played out, we were able to add him, and I thought, man, he's added a ton of value to our team in regards to just veteran, kind of blue-collar, old-school throwback type of player. And the most important thing really last week's game that he improved upon, week 1 he ran for a 69-yard touchdown against Northwestern. Like, we knew he could run. He hadn't been as accurate throwing the football really through the first game and a half, almost 2 games. Last week, we were very efficient in the throw game. He averaged 10 yards an attempt. And really we threw the ball in a much improved way last game. And I expect us to continue to grow upon that because we have that ability, I think.
On the flip side, of course, defensive guy at heart. What have you seen from your defense over the early goings of this season? Playing 2 Power 4 opponents, and from what I've seen, being able to force turnovers and take advantage of those too.
Yeah, it's been kind of a mixed bag. Like, I think our best has been really good. I think our worst has been kind of ugly. Like, to be honest with you, like when we haven't played good football and defense, it's been like a train wreck bad this season. And there was a couple moments in the South Alabama game looked like we were a very poorly coached football team on defense. There were a couple moments last week. We gave up a 4th and 14 last week that I'm still pissed about. And so there's some stuff that we got to get cleaned up and worked out. I think we got good length. I think we got good athleticism. I think our team has the right intent about playing the game physically on defense. We got to play cleaner. We got to play more sound. We got to play more with a higher football IQ and some things. But this defense is much closer to being whole earlier in the year than last year's defense was here. Last year's defense, we were trying to find our way to about game 5. This year has already kind of started off good in game 1 in some regards with the takeaways and playing a little bit more smothering style of defense earlier in the year.
How do you balance going after this Ole Miss offense that played Trinidad last week? Austin Simmons was available. Lane says he expects Austin to play this week or be the starter. How do you go about that, compared to we got to play, assignment, alignment, football and just worry about ourselves?
Well, there's a lot of challenges when you play Ole Miss. And I think, the schematics of what they do and how they do it, their tempo gives you problems, their splits and spacing. I think it's unique. They do really good, and they're such a well-coached offense. It's like they'll give you some open sets, and then the next play you'll get a condensed set, and then you'll get kind of some maybe things that kind of where you lose a guy with your eyes, and they do a lot that stresses you out defensively. And then I think they got good players. I mean, I think their skill guys are elite. I think the quarterbacks both have obvious strengths. The youngster Simmons, 13, he's got a hose. I mean, you can watch him throw the football. It comes out hot, and you're like, this guy, he's got real juice in his arm. And then the guy last week, 6, the kid from Fair State, man, he's a Trinidad. He's a freaking baller, man. He's kind of got a little bit of like just that moxie, savvy, knows how to mix it up type player. Like different player, but almost how you look at like Diego Pavia a little bit, like just kind of like dude just gets it done. And those guys are winners, man. Like that dude's a winner. Watching him play, I got a ton of respect for how he plays. So either way, we got our hands full. I do think they're different players. They're not the same player. I think anybody goes, oh, it's the same thing. No, they're different guys. Like they have different things they do well. But we got our hands full because both quarterbacks are dynamic with what they do well.
When you take the show on the road, what are the keys to the game for you for this matchup specifically? The couple of things that kind of really catch your eye as the head coach.
Well, our keys to victory don't really change in regards to like how you win the game from a football perspective. Like we emphasize all the time, turnover margin, running the football, playing physical, and then explosive plays, including the kicking game. Like that's every week with me. All right. I think this environment we're going into, playing a really talented team, and the message for me all week really just been to our guys, and will continue to be, is be detailed in everything you do. Just be detailed, and then be where your feet are. Like don't worry about something way out in front of you or way behind you. Like worry about being right where you are in that moment. And so there's going to be some things that don't go our way Saturday because we're playing a really good football team. There's going to be some things that go our way, and because we got some good players too. But whatever happens, like be where your feet are, be in that moment, be very present with what you're doing all week. Today, like worry about today. Don't worry about Saturday yet. And tomorrow's third down install, like worry about the third down install tomorrow. And like make sure we're really, really present in the moment of whatever we're working on. And just, be prepared for anything that comes your way, because it's going to be a challenge. Like this is a good football team we're playing, man.
Coach, thanks so much for all the time today, and we appreciate you jumping on with us. And enjoy Saturday, of course, getting back to Oxford. Know you spent some time there as well, and good luck the rest of the season.
Appreciate you, Bill. Thanks for having me on.